Alright everyone, welcome back to my channel, Baseball Talk with Nick Morgan. So today I think I have a really cool video coming out for you guys. I'm going to be talking about 10 players who have a high risk of being traded before the July 31st trade deadline. Now that day is 4 days away from the time I am making this video, and I do not think that we are done with roster changes. I think there's going to be a lot more trades still looming about this next couple of days. We have a lot of big guys left on the market that will probably be dealt because a lot of teams need starting pitchers and relievers right now if they want to make a heavy postseason push. So with that being said, we're going to get right into it here and talk about the contending teams' needs. So I'm not going to get into a lot of detail here, but I'm going to simply name the contending teams and what they need to be able to advance and have a better shot at the World Series and a World Series championship. So with that being said, we have the Milwaukee Brewers, who need starting pitching, the Washington Nationals, who are really looking for some bullpen guys, the Philadelphia Phillies, who could really use some starters, the Yankees also need starters, the Rays need starting pitching and bullpen arms, the St. Louis Cardinals, who need left-handed bullpen guys in particular, the Atlanta Braves just need pitching altogether, the Astros pitchers are really heavily needed for them, especially starters, and the Red Sox, who have some bullpen guys as well. And the last 4 teams we have are the Minnesota Twins, who are looking for bullpen guys, Dodgers, bullpen guys, Indians, right-handed batters, and Cubs, bench depth. So we're not really going to be talking about hitters as much. We're going to talk about one guy at the very end of this video who's at risk of being traded, but the other guys will be all pitchers. So you guys probably saw the pattern there. Starting pitching is a huge need, and that's why I'm assuming, we've only seen like 2 or 3 starters really move so far. There's gotta be a couple more on the way of leaving their team and going somewhere new for the August and rest of 2019 that is coming up. So we are going to dive into this 10-player list, starting with New York Mets starting pitcher Noah Syndergaard. He is left-handed and 26 years old, so a really young guy with a lot of talent and potential. In 2019, he has 20 games pitched with a 7-5 record, a 4.33 ERA, 126.2 innings pitched, 126 strikeouts, and a 1.26 whip. Teams need starting pitching, and there's a lot of interest in him. There's been a lot of rumors, especially going around these past couple of days, the Mets saying that if they do trade Noah, they're going to want a starting pitcher back now. Doesn't have to be good, but they want a starting pitcher and 3 or 4 good prospects. The number 2 guy on this list, and I do have to mention really quick, this is in no particular order, but the number 2 guy is Zack Wheeler, also a starter of the New York Mets. He's right-handed, 29 years old, and in 2019 he has 20 games pitched as well as Noah Syndergaard, a 7-6 record, a 4.71 ERA, 124.1 innings pitched, 137 strikeouts, and a 1.27 whip. If Noah Syndergaard is traded, we are likely to see a contract extension for Zack Wheeler, but if Syndergaard does not leave the Mets before July 31st, I think Zack Wheeler will. I'm almost positive that one of these Mets starters will be departing this team. I could be wrong, but I think these 2 guys especially have a really high risk of being traded. Our 3rd starter on this list is going to be coming from Cleveland. Trevor Bauer is right-handed and 28 years old. The guy is a really good curveball, and in 2019 he has 23 games pitched, a 9-7 record, a 3.49 ERA, 152.1 innings pitched, 179 strikeouts, and a 1.16 whip. His name has been thrown out there a little bit. He's a good young starting pitcher with a lot of talent and future potential. I know the New York Yankees have seeked interest in him and a couple other teams as well. Will the Cleveland Indians steal him? Who knows? But he's a guy that could be traded and dealt and get a lot in return for. I don't know where his future is and what team he will be with within these next up-and-coming months and years, but Trevor Bauer could be on the move. Going over to Texas, we have Mike Minor, who is a left-handed starter at the age of 31 right now. In 2019, he has 21 games pitched and an 8-6 record, followed up with a 3.00 ERA, 135 innings pitched, 136 strikeouts, and a 1.18 whip. The guy had a really low ERA just a couple months back, and keep in mind, he is with the Texas Rangers, who are a very young team. They don't put together a lot of wins, so the fact that he is 8-6 with a 3 earned run average is not bad at all. He's done very good with his team this year, and I think the Rangers could get a lot back for him. I mean, in the future, they're looking to be successful and do well. They have Joey Gallo out right now because of injury. So if they want to just scrap together a couple more wins, they could keep Mike Minor, or they can deal him. Again, the Yankees have shown interest in him. I believe the Astros and maybe even the Brewers, I think, have talked about maybe trying to acquire him as well. And there's been a lot of executives and guys watching him during starts because, he's hot right now and he could potentially go to another team within the next couple of days. Marcus Stroman is a 28-year-old right-handed starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays currently. In 2019, he has pitched in 21 games with a 6-11 record. Now, I know that might look bad, but his ERA is 2.96, one of the lowest of starting pitchers on this list that I've put together. In 124.2 innings pitched, he has 99 strikeouts and a 1.23 whip. The record, like I said, is not great, but he's with the Blue Jays, and they have not been a good team this year. They have some young guys. They're looking to rebuild. Marcus Stroman is young himself, but if the Blue Jays can get a lot more prospects in return for this good arm, they have an even better future with a lot more potential and some brighter lights when it comes to this franchise. They are built off their farm system as Vlad Jr. and Kevin Biggio are just coming up with them starting this year as rookies, and Bo Bichette is also in that farm system. So if they can get some top prospects back, I think Marcus Stroman will be dealt very quickly. I think one of the first offers they receive, if any, will probably be accepted, and the Yankees have actually shown interest in him. He's talked about how cool it would be to pitch in pinstripes, and I think, a lot of these guys could be traded by July 31st, with Marcus Stroman especially, because the Blue Jays don't really have a lot riding on the 2019 season. They're not really postseason contenders. They won't be postseason contenders this year or for the next 2 or 3 years at least. So this might be a good time to deal Stroman. I met Robbie Wright, pitcher of the Arizona Diamondbacks, 3 years ago at Chase Field. He is a left-handed starting pitcher. At the age of 27, he has pitched in 22 games in 2019 with a 9-6 record, a 3.95 ERA, 123 innings pitched, 162 strikeouts, and a 1.31 whip. Now, we haven't really heard about him a whole lot. I know him and Greinke were both thrown out there saying, oh yeah, we might trade him. There's a possibility, make a good offer, and we might give him to you. But who knows where the D-backs actually come to terms with when it comes to trading Ray. He's really good, and honestly, the Diamondbacks are just looking for the future at this point. They're not really contenders for this year. I don't think they're going to be in the postseason. They probably won't make any heavy pushes to get to that point in 2019. But if you're the executives for the Diamondbacks, Robbie Ray's really good and take advantage of the opportunity you have. So we could see him dealt as well. I think he is much more likely to be traded than Zach Greinke, but who knows? Only time will tell. I don't know about you guys, but the first name, or one of the first names I heard when it came to the trade deadline was Matt Boyd. Ever since the start of July, I heard that he might be up for grabs, and he's 28 years old, a left-handed starting pitcher for the Detroit Tigers. In 2019, he has 21 games under his belt, a 6-8 record, 4.07 ERA, 126 innings pitched, 168 strikeouts, and a 1.13 whip. This guy could easily be the number 3 or 4 starting pitcher for most postseason contending teams. If not the 3 or 4 guy, he can definitely fill in that number 5 spot. And his ERA and record is not the best currently, but you also have to take into consideration that he's with the Tigers at the moment, who really can't field a great amount of offense every game, and they're not winning a whole lot either. So it doesn't really make sense to expect him to have a near flawless record or 9-5, something like that, because the Detroit Tigers just aren't winning a whole lot. If he goes to a team that's taking every series or almost every series, I think he could be a little bit better, and definitely a guy who will benefit, again, most of these teams that are contending, and the Tigers can get a lot back for him. Now, a lot of people might not agree with me on this one, but I think Madison Bumgarner is on the verge of being traded. This is not his best year, but he's 29 years old and a left-handed starting pitcher. In 2019, he has 22 games under his belt, a 5-7 record, a 3.66 ERA, 132.2 innings pitched, 134 strikeouts, and a 1.17 whip. You guys might be saying, well, hey, the Giants have been on a hot streak. Yes, that's 20 games that they have been a pretty good franchise. But if you take into consideration that they've played over 100, that means 1/5 of this season they have been very good. And you cannot base your postseason contentions off of 1/5 of the year. If the Giants really want to try to make the postseason, in my opinion, I think it's in their best bet to trade Madison Bumgarner and get some better starters for the infield and maybe pitching as well. But get a handful of guys back for this starting pitcher. He is one guy, he cannot bring his team to the postseason by himself, especially when he's not playing most of the games. He's starting 1 out of every 5 or 6 games. He cannot do this by himself. You need to get some outfielders or maybe some infielders. An upgrade for Stephen Vogt won't hurt either. I think Madison Bumgarner could be traded, and there's a lot of potential for him. I think a lot of teams are willing to give up a decent amount of guys, or at least some good prospects, in return for that lefty. Our last two guys on this list are going to be relievers, and to start it off, we have Ken Giles. He's 28 years old, won the World Series with the Astros a couple years back, and in 2019, he has 34 games so far. He's appeared in a 2-2 record, a 1.59 ERA, 34 innings pitched, 58 strikeouts, and a 1.09 whip. Much like Marcus Stroman, who is also on the Blue Jays with Ken Giles right now, the Blue Jays really have nothing to lose. They could easily get rid of Giles, get a lot back in return, and add to that farm system. He is very young. He could benefit almost any bullpen of the contending teams, and I think he could definitely be traded. I mean, the Blue Jays have a great guy and a great arm in Giles. Why not give it a shot? Try to go into another team that can contend, get some prospects back, and have a better future for the Toronto Blue Jays. Now we have the New York Mets closer, Edwin Diaz. He's 25 years old. He's a reliever who hasn't been great for the Mets this year. He's blown a couple of saves. He has a 1-6 record in 43 games with a 4.81 ERA, 39.1 innings pitched, 61 strikeouts, and a 1.45 whip. You just got to say that he's young, and you got to hope for the best if you do receive him in the trade here before the deadline. He came over from the Mariners. He did pretty well there, I guess, but, you know, even if you don't use him as a closer, throw him in for an inning. Put him in better game situations than Mickey Callaway has been. And I think you could easily see a turnaround with Edwin Diaz's 2019 going into August. I think he's a guy that could definitely help some teams that are looking for a postseason push, and why not give it a shot? I mean, you might blow some saves, you might give up a couple runs putting him in, but it's worth a shot. You gotta at least try. If you're any team right now with needs of a bullpen arm, you might as well try to get him, even if the Mets say no. Again, this is another team like the Toronto Blue Jays that don't have much to lose. At least say he's out and he could be traded. Put him out on the table. So Edwin Diaz was our number 10 guy on this list, but I'm going to talk about one more who's a notable mention. Clint Frazier is an outfielder at the age of 24 for the New York Yankees. He is currently in the minor leagues because they have a very crowded outfield as it is right now, but in 2019, he has 191 at-bats with a 283 average, 11 home runs, 34 RBIs, 1 stolen base, and a .845 OPS. This guy is really young, but really talented when it comes to offense. If you get him going and maybe work on his defense a little bit, he could easily be one of the better outfielders in the game. He's a little more well-rounded at that point, too. When you have Mike Trout, Christian Yelich, Cody Bellinger, very good guys in that outfield spot. But Clint Frazier's got to be like a topper or a solid piece to any trade that the New York Yankees could go ahead and think about here and propose. If you're trying to go for guys like Trevor Bauer, Matt Boyd, Mike Minor, I almost assume and can guarantee Clint Frazier will be a part of that trade because teams really can't say no to him. He's really good and has a lot of potential in the future. He's young, so you can guarantee a couple strong years out of him. He's not even in his prime yet. And he's, again, with the minor leagues. The Yankees really have no need for him up in the MLB right now, so you might as well deal him because I don't really see them losing someone like Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton or Aaron Hicks. I mean, Hicks just signed a 7-year contract extension, so you know he's definitely going to be there for a while. So with that being said, I think Clint Frazier could be traded. He could be a topping piece to a really good trade when they get a pitcher back for the New York Yankees. And with that being said, that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed it, I ask that you please drop a like down below, comment, and subscribe. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already, click that sub button. I would greatly appreciate it if you do. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace.